Hello, Colts Nation. What's up, No Horsing family? Welcome back to another episode of the No Horsing Around podcast. As always, I am one of two dudes talking Colts, one of your hosts, Stephen Burton. And we're back on a live stream, you guys. As you can tell, I'm down one man. Zach had an emergency with his family with some sickness going on, so you guys are good. You guys are with me again. I know we rolled this through last week, kind of leading up to Thanksgiving. So I'm excited. I'm excited to kind of jump right in. We're going to talk about basically anything and everything tonight's on the table. We can talk about, as the thumbnail shows, we can talk about head coaching candidates. Who do you like? Who do you not like? Who do you want? Who do you don't want? We can talk about quarterbacks in the draft. Who do you like? Who do you not like? Who do you want to stay far away from? Who's your top five? Who's your top number one? All these different things. And then we can talk about the game last week. We can talk about the Steelers game a little bit. We can also just kind of talk a little bit about the Cowboys game. So let's just kind of get this started. Let's kind of jump right into it, and we'll lead off with let's talk a little bit about the game last week, right? Let's talk about the Steelers game. Man, I mean, I think Troy Aikman, like we said on the instant reaction, Troy Aikman did a masterful job of describing how inept the Colts passing attack was, right? And we get the question a lot. Well, the receivers aren't getting open. They're not giving him a place to put the ball, and they're not giving him somewhere who he can target. But man, I mean, when you can't throw the ball over the top and you can't take the top off the defense, these corners, these safeties, they're going to sit. And they sit on the receivers, and the windows are extremely tight, and the passes have to be perfect, and they've not been. And Landon Oliver over at the Blue Stable, he's done some film breakdown on Twitter. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. It's amazing. Where he breaks down, it's like as soon as that back foot hits, if you release that ball, I mean, there's numerous plays you can see that were there for the taking in the Pittsburgh game. I know everyone wants to talk about the clock management at the end of the game, right? Like, what was Jeff Saturday thinking? What was happening? Why did an extra 30 seconds roll off the clock? Which he's openly admitted to now, and he has said, I wish I would have taken the timeout. I mean, and let's scroll through that series of events. Matt Ryan runs, dives, gives himself up for the first down, trying to get the first down, comes up a yard short. At that point, you probably take a timeout. I get that you're trying to rush, you're trying to get up there, but get your head together, get the right play together, get what you want, and go. Instead, we kind of rush up to the line, rush a weird run, right? And stonewalled, just done, right? Like it's not happening. It's not. And then fourth down, not the best play call, game, right? I mean, that was the concern, right? Like that's the concern with Jeff Saturday. That's the concern that everybody had. And I hate that it happened because I feel like it validated everybody's argument that he wouldn't know what he was doing, right? Like he looked in control of the Las Vegas game. He looked pretty decent in the Eagles game. And then in that moment, it was like everything came to the light was what everyone was concerned of, that he had no clue what he was doing. And he didn't know how to manage the clock. So I hate that happened. But all in all, I mean, it was another Colts game in 2022, right? So let's talk a little bit. Let's talk a little bit about kind of the upcoming, what we're looking at, not necessarily the upcoming game, right? I tweeted out, and I even said in the instant reaction, and I would love to hear from you guys on this. Man, I'm looking over the remaining 5 games. I'm having a hard time finding a win, right? Like I'm having a hard time looking at it and go, that's a win. Because even the Texans game at the end of the year, that's the last game of the year, man. Are they checked out? Are they done? If they've not won another game for the rest of the season, Are they really even going to be there? Are they making vacation plans? Are they ready to rock? Are they ready to go? They're ready to be just done with this season. Man, I'm hard pressed to look at that schedule and go, all right, there's a win. That one, they could. And this is coming from a guy who, like, I openly admitted, I was like, Steelers should be a win, right? Y'all know how I feel about the Chargers. I feel like their coach is not a good coach. I feel like they're not a great team. I thought that was a win. I thought the Giants were kind of a mirage. I thought that could be a win. Man, I'm second guessing everything at this point when it comes to the Colts and what they look like, because they look so inept. I had a buddy of mine who's a Titans fan who said, I don't understand why you don't play the way that we do, which is you have one of the top, according to Troy Aikman, one of the top three backs in the entire NFL. Why don't you just run him? He's getting huge chunk of plays. Why aren't you running him? And I don't have an answer for it. Like, when you're peeling off 5, 6, 7 yards a clip, why don't you keep running? I don't know. I don't know. The only defense I can have is it's the same playbook and the playbook calls for more throws. I don't know. I don't know what's going on with it. Uh, I have no idea what to say when it comes to that. Really quickly, you guys, I want to kind of, as always, we kind of put the little shout out. Support the family. If you're in here, we love it. There are numerous ways you can support it. Level 1, level 2, level 3, $1.99, $2.99, $4.99. Helps kind of put some money into the pockets of the channel, helps us kind of update different things, do different cool things. Like I said last time, we got credentialed for the Senior Bowl. We've gotten credentialed for training camp this past year. We'll do both those things again. We're going to shoot to get credentialed for the combine, potentially the draft. There's all sorts of fun things. This kind of helps with that. And if you just want to donate, you just want to kick us a little bit here, go ahead. If you got a really specific question, you want to make sure we don't miss it, which we do our best not to, you can do that too, and you can ding it in the super chat. There's my boy, man. That's my boy Zach right there chiming in. Zach, if you ever feel like you want to make a quick appearance, just let me know. But all right, so first one in the chat, Jeremy Guyon. Hire Jim Harbaugh as head coach, draft quarterback Anthony Richardson, thumbs up. So as you guys know on the thumbnail, right? And this seems to be what everybody was going to want to talk about, because there's not a lot of fun talk as it comes to the Colts' current season. So what better to talk about than the fact that we're going to probably need a new head coach. There's a potential for a new GM, which is not a sexy thing to talk about. GMs is there's nothing like sexy about that. Like, there's nothing like, oh, I like that guy right there. That's the guy I want. And then a quarterback, right? We can all kind of safely assume and feel Matt Ryan's not coming back. I mean, Matt Ryan his arm looks shot. He actually looks a little gun shy in the pocket now. So we can all safely assume that there's going to be a new head coach and a new quarterback in Indy next year, right? So I want to know inside the chat, who do y'all like? Let's start with the head coaches, right? Like we got lots of time to talk about quarterbacks, but we're going to get there too. What are some of the head coaches that you like? Like, that's a question that we got on the last, I think the last live stream, or potentially the last episode that we did, where I said, I've got some in my head, and I didn't really give that list out. And I got a lot of questions saying, well, what is that list? Like, who are some of the coaches that you like? Right. And I differ. Okay. I love Jim Harbaugh. Me and Zach have kind of gone back and forth on this. I love Jim Harbaugh. Jim Harbaugh is one of the reasons I am a Colts fan. When he was the quarterback, I used to call him Jim Harbuckle when I was a kid, which is hilarious to me. But I would love that. But on the same side, he's got it moving so well at Michigan. I just don't, and this is where me and Zach differ. I don't know if he wants to get back in. I don't know if that itch is there because of what happened. He got to the cusp of winning a Super Bowl, and then he didn't. And he went back to college. Or is he so content at his alma mater? Like, I know he's a former Colt, But as anybody can tell you too, like I love my Colts and I bleed blue, but it's a different thing when it's your alma mater and it's where you went to school. There's a different kind of love for that. So I can't imagine if you played there and was like the man there, like he was, like my boy Zach says, Captain Comeback, right? I can't imagine what that's like. And then to be the guy, like to be the dude, right? I can't fathom what that would be like. And to be winning at a very high clip. He's going to be in the college football playoff, barring an epic collapse over the weekend. He's going to be in the college football playoff for the second year in a row. It's tough, man. I mean, I love Jim Harbaugh, but I don't know. I'm going to get back to this, but I want to give a big, huge shout out, Jeremy Bramlett, Cowboys fan here. Respect your show, and hey, let's just have fun Sunday night. No matter who wins, respect to all. Donated $5. Thank you, Jeremy. Like that's amazing. I appreciate that so much. We love you guys when you guys do things like that. We always welcome other fans, Cowboys fans, Seahawks fans, Ravens fans, whoever wants. We're always wanting other fans to come in. It gives us another perspective. I would love to hear from you throughout the chat on different things as we kind of talk a little bit more about that game coming up too. Okay, let's pound this out because my boy Wyatt's here now too. Wyatt, I missed you. I feel like we missed you last week. I'm glad you're back. Agree on a new coach for 2023, but I'd like to see whoever that is retain Gus Bradley and his staff for continuity on defense and also on the Anthony Richardson train. Okay. So we'll kind of I'm gonna tackle this because I'm gonna answer Wyatt and what he says. I want to address that, and then we'll kind of go back to some of the coaches again too. So I like that idea. I do. I really like the idea of a Gus Bradley staying. The defense has looked really well. I think you can retain a lot of that talent. And I think there's a possibility that it can roll to next year. I think you're going to lose some. I do. I think some are going to go. Um, I, I honestly think this is probably Kenny Moore's last year in Indy, but that's probably just me. But I think you're going to lose some of these players. Some are going to stay. I think you keep Gus. I think you keep that continuity. I think that'd be great. But I don't think you can. Obviously, you can't force him on whoever the new head coach is. If that head coach is Jeff Saturday, Gus Bradley's definitely staying, right? Like he's going to probably go out and he's going to find his OC. But the question is the ties that you have, whoever you bring in, is he going to want to do his own thing? One of my favorite coaches that I'm keeping kind of like two eyes on. I really like D'Amico Ryans. I think he's got a lot of energy. I almost think you want to lean into maybe a little bit more of what you are, which is going to be that defensive team, that strong defensive team. His defense has been amazing in San Francisco. He's a young coach. Uh, I like him a lot. I also like. It's gonna sound weird. I like Byron Leftwich. I liked him last year. Um, I think less with the Niners, more with uh, just in general. It's tough. I think he's a good coach, and my joke has always been if you can't beat him, take their best person of all time. So if you can't beat the Jags, go get one of their guys, right? So I mean that's who I like a little bit. I'm gonna kind of pound out a couple more of these comments, and then I'll get you to who I don't really like. Nomadic Brian, man. I might take a look at a current young offensive coordinator who might be flying under the radar, new ideas, but with some proven time in. All right. So I would love to know who is that? Right? Like who do you have your eye on someone? A name that I hear a lot is Ken Dorsey, and I actually don't like that idea. Um, I worry heavily that he is currently riding the coattails of Josh Allen. I've had some people tell me like he had a hand in like the development portion of it, but I put way more of that on Dayball. Dayball's proved to be an amazing head coach, obviously in New York with the Giants. So I kind of push a little bit back on Ken Dorsey, and Jeremy's in here, so I want to definitely hear from him on this one name. The name that I hear a lot of is Kellen Moore, but I also hear a lot of pushback from Cowboys fans in regards to, I don't know if it's they don't want to lose him or they're unhappy with him sometimes. Like I get these very divisive takes on him. He's a young offensive mind. I'd be interested to hear from Jeremy in the chat on what he says about Kellen Moore, because that's a name that comes up a lot too. Uh, in fact, Jeremy says, if you want to beat us, it's simple. We're not good at defending the run. If you want to beat Parsons, run at him. Y'all throw too much, you stand no chance. And man, I mean that's been freaking all season. That's been all season. You know, the key to beating the Eagles, run at them. The key to beating the Steelers, try to run at them. I don't know why we don't do it, but apparently we just choose not to. We have, like I said, one of, I mean, you could say top 3 backs. If you want to try to be like negative, you could say top 5. So it's a key. I like the idea of running at Parsons. I would love to test it. You know, you always try to run at the player, the edge rusher, see if you can catch him over kind of overcommitting, overextending, and find that lane. Kind of back up a little bit when we're talking about obviously Anthony Richardson's on our thumbnail, right? Like that's a discussion. Let's kind of pivot for a little bit here. We'll kind of go the hot topic, right? Like everybody wants to talk about it. Everyone's got their list. Quarterback, right? We kind of established earlier that I don't see Matt Ryan coming back, right? I don't. For those who've watched us long enough, know me and Zach both kind of had to be talked into Matt Ryan. We were kind of more, hindsight's 2020, and you can look really bad with this, but we were more of Baker Mayfield coming because hell, it would at least been fun. Like I don't know what he would have looked like, but it probably would have been more fun than this. So we had to be kind of convinced of it. I don't think I can be convinced for him to coming back another year. So then we look at the quarterbacks who are currently in the draft, right? Like who we think. Now we're what 4 or 5 months out from the draft. There's a lot of process to play out still, right? You got the Senior Bowl, Combine, and Pro Days, right? So what does that mean? What are you going to do when it comes to who you're actually looking at? Really quickly before we keep going, I posed the question to Jeremy, who is our newest member, a little bit, who comes on in and joins as a Cowboys fan. And I asked him kind of the idea behind Kellen Moore, because that's a name we hear a lot. And what he's told me is with Kellen Moore, he's an ex-quarterback. McCarthy is having to make him run the ball more. He gets way too cute with his play calling, trying to run a college offense. It just doesn't work in the NFL. He's not consistent. Most Cowboys fans want him gone. So there you go. Like that's the thing. Like I've heard that. I've heard that a lot. That people are really kind of upset. For those who don't know, and I'm not a Cowboys fan, Kellen Moore, former Boise State quarterback, kind of went straight from quarterback to quarterback coach, like really quickly. Amazing quarterback. Great quarterback when it came to being at Boise State. Not much in the NFL, but he's kind of been like that. And Jeremy can correct me if I'm wrong. I kind of feel like that Jason Garrett golden boy that Jerry Jones really, really likes for some reason. And it sounds like they would be happy for him to leave. At least Jeremy would, for him to go ahead and be gone from the Cowboys. So, I mean, but that's a young one. That's kind of that young offensive coordinator. I would love to hear from anyone who's in the chat on who are some other names that you guys are interested in. You know, we've talked about Jim Harbaugh. I've told you like D'Amico Ryans, Byron Leftwich. We've talked about Kellen Moore. What are some other names that you guys like in regards to a head coach? Do you lean more offense? Do you lean more defense? Do you want to get that that Sean McVay type, right? Like, do you want to roll the dice and try to get that guy who is the next hot young quarterback? Do you want to try to get that guy who's the next Mike Vrabel, like that guy who's going to lead? I know, like Mike, we always talk about Mike Vrabel around here, right? But that guy who can just lead a team. Do you want that? Do you want Jeff Saturday? Do you want him to stay? Do you want to see if he can, with a full offseason, implement what he wants to do and lead the team in a way if he's able to build his staff, right? So let's kind of go through here a little bit while you guys drop those in the chat. Let me know. We'll discuss them. Okay, so Jeremy, if you want to go after someone that we are absolutely afraid of losing, Dan Quinn would be the one. Dan Quinn's gone, man. I hate to break that to you, Jeremy. I think he's gone. I think he's going to get a job somewhere. The NFL is a trend league, right? Like they find the trendy thing and they go for it, whether it's coaches or players, right? Coaches. Sean McVay pops. I want that super young offensive coordinator who's going to come in and do it. Matt LaFleur, Zach Taylor, right? Anybody who had a cup of coffee and spent time with Sean McVay was getting a job. Then as far as and then you look too, what works is what they try to do. So even in regards to quarterbacks coming out of the draft, for a while, everyone's being compared. This dude's like Mahomes. Like he can throw off-platform throws. He can make these plays kind of off script. Now it's, hey, we're looking for the next Josh Allen, that big-bodied, athletic quarterback. It's a trend league, So what trend are we hitting on now? Most of the time, when you fire a coach, you go the opposite, right? If you had an offensive guy, you go defense. If you had a defensive guy, you go offense. And sometimes you go quirky and you go special teams like the Ravens did, and you hit on it. You don't know till you know. I mean, everyone thought Nathaniel Hackett at the Broncos was going to be amazing, and he is a dumpster fire who's probably going to get fired at the end of this season, right? I have coaches that I think aren't good at all. I actually think that the coach at the Chargers is not very good. I think he might get fired at the end of this year. And I mean, everybody who knows me knows I think Zach Taylor I think he fleeced the Bengals into a contract extension. I think he's a horrendous head coach who just happens to have Joe Burrow. Let's see. Let's go through these. Nomadic Brian, lean more offense, light up the board. I can see it, man. I mean, and I think that for us Colts fans, that goes to what we have always seen. Colts football has always been points on the board, Star Wars type numbers, as Jim Irsay calls it, and just fling the ball around the yard. That's Peyton, that's Luck. That's what we're used to. And I think we miss that. I think it's a hard time to think that it's a defensive thing. I mean, heck, we've talked about it numerous times on here. If the Colts could just score 20 points, I think they were like 8-3 is what they would have been this season. So I mean, I get that, and the offense has been so bad this year that you kind of want to try to kickstart it, right? Wyatt, I expect Ballard to remain with the Colts. He's really adept at solving complex problems, and this offseason is going to be his ultimate test. If he flubs the dub, Irsay will move on in 2024. So I see that. And my feeling, I think that there is a decent chance that he is back, right? I think there's a chance that Irsay is going to let him pick the quarterback, right? Like he's not gotten to do that yet. This draft is littered with quarterbacks, right? You can have your pick. Everyone's got their own favorite, from Anthony Richardson to Will Levis to Michael Penix to Bo Nix is now being talked about more and more to CJ Stroud. And then obviously the can't miss is what everybody feels is Bryce Young, And you can go down the list. Cam Ward from Washington State, KJ Jefferson from Arkansas. There's so many this year. Like, it's not going to shock me if like 4 or 5 go in the first round potentially, like when we really break that down as we get closer to the draft. So I think he's going to be given the chance to do it. The the tough thing with Ballard that I go back and forth on is he's so good at finding talent later, but no one knows how good he is at finding talent at the key position of quarterback, right? Like no one really knows, can he actually do that? I don't know, man. I go back and forth. I had somebody ask me the other day, "Do you think he's gone?" And I said, "Yes." Tonight, I'm saying no. I don't know. I think a lot depends on what Jeff Saturday wants to do too, right? Is he coming back as a head coach? Are you completely emasculated? For anyone who's saying he's going to resign, he absolutely won't because he won't get paid that way, right? You got the money's in the being fired, right? So, um, let's kind of go through here. Big Red, thank you, Big Red, for coming in. If Kingsbury is available, my first pick, please. No, 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 no. And by no means do I think Kingsbury is a bad coach. He had a losing record in college. Pretty sure he doesn't have the best record with the Cardinals. I'd have to look it up. If someone wants to drop that in the chat, that'd be great. Um, my irk with him was I think going into this season, somewhat PFF had him ranked as a top 5 head coach in the NFL. I don't think he's that. Uh, offensive mind, amazing. Amazing offensive mind, right? He can put together things. He had a great offense at Texas Tech. Everyone knows like what he's most well known for is obviously being the offensive coordinator for Texas A&M with Johnny Manziel. That got him the job at Texas Tech. Before he got the Cardinals job, he was supposed to be the OC at USC. Very smart, very, very well informed when it comes to offense, being a former quarterback too. I think he's lost like that. I wouldn't be surprised if he is fired at the end of this year because you got to pick. It's like the Broncos, right? Hackett, Wilson don't work. Who you gonna fire? The coach that you don't have to pay as much, or the quarterback that you just signed to a 5-year extension for $250 million? Who you gonna fire? Cliff Kingsbury, who you did just give a good extension to, or are you going to try to trade your quarterback you just paid $200 million to? No, head coach is gone. Head coach will be gone. So I actually think he might be available. I don't see that. I don't see that one. But he's a good coach. I think there's a chance he might go back to college. Jeremy, don't forget Sean Payton is still out there too. I see that. The reason I don't mention him for the Colts is I think he has very specific criteria on where he wants to go. Rumor has it he really likes the Chargers. I've always thought he wanted to coach your team, Jeremy. I always thought he wants to be with the Cowboys. And I always thought the Cowboys really want him. But I don't think you can fire McCarthy if you guys go to the playoffs, right? Like, I don't know. You tell me. But I don't think the Colts are on his list. And also, I think it's important to point out everyone seems to forget with Sean Payton, he is not a coaching free agent, right? Like he is under contract with the Saints. You are going to have to trade assets to get him. And as a Colts fan, and as Colts fans in here, right? Do you want to be trading picks that you might have to utilize to go get your quarterback that you desperately need, right? Like, do you want to give up picks for that? It's a question. It's a question I'm going to pose to you guys. Nomadic Brian, I'm pretty sure Scott Frost, ex-Nebraska coach, will not be on the list. He will not. It's a good point. I think just sidebar, I love college football. Like I adore college football. An IU fan, Florida State family. I actually see him going to like USF, like going back down that way. Completely side note. But Wyatt, wasn't Ballard a key part of KC's scouting department identifying Mahomes? Yes. That is true. Like that's kind of his claim to fame in regards to quarterbacks. He definitely helped scout him. He definitely helped kind of eyeball him. Now, Brett Veach, the GM over there, he was the one who ultimately pulled all those strings and had the meetings. And, you can, I think it's like SI.com or something like that. There's an amazing story you can go read kind of about all the behind the scenes stuff that took place. And you kind of hear that, right? When you're talking about doing that, like I believe KC and Veach told him, we're going to take you if you fall to this spot. Like, we're going to find a way. And they did. But to hear those behind the scenes things, like the Bears back in the day, they were doing a lot of behind the scenes stuff, having meetings with Mitchell Trubisky because they wanted him. You hear this with them. I think it's too early right now, but you identify the guy that you want pretty early on. And I've said this throughout this process when it comes to the draft, right? Fortune favors the bold. You're going to have to, there's a chance you're going to have to make a bold move. And if Ballard's here, it's an unballard move. You might have to go up to get your guy. I don't know who that is. I don't know. I have who I like. Zach has who he likes. You know, my anybody, you can go to different Colts podcasts across the board, right? And everybody has people they like. The guy I like isn't even on some of those lists, right? So it goes back and forth all the time when it comes to it. But I think they have an idea. I do think they like people in this draft. Who that is, your guess is as good as mine. Nomadic Brian. Byron Leftwich is ranked number 3 on PFF offensive play caller rankings. I like him. Hey, I'm just saying. Another name. And I don't think that it's a guy that will be heavily looked at because of what's going on. I actually really like Brian Flores too. I think he's a hell of a head coach. I think he did a really good job down in Miami. Kind of got an unfair shake at the end, but I think what's going on with the NFL, I'm not quite sure what will happen with that. Jeremy. Okay, so this is back to what we were talking about earlier. As for Dallas, no playoffs ain't good enough. If we don't make at least the NFC Championship game after 27 years, McCarthy will be fired. Maybe. I mean, I don't know enough about the Cowboys to speak on it, but if from 10,000 feet, right? If Jerry Jones can go get Sean Payton, who, from what I've read, he's on record saying like his biggest mistake was letting him out of the building, man, he might just do it. He might just do it. But man, it's tough to fire a coach who gets into the playoffs and gets, wins a game or two. Matt LaFleur from Green Bay, Nomadic Brian. I don't think he's going anywhere. I mean, he's one. I think I got a buddy of mine, 2 buddies of mine who cover the one covers the Packers. And the other one is a massive Packers fan in Wisconsin. And both of he's one of the I believe he has the most wins for a Packers head coach in his first 3 seasons. And I know he's got Aaron Rodgers, but I don't think he's going anywhere. You don't want to have somebody come in and have to learn a whole new system for Aaron Rodgers and do all these different things. As great as he is, I think he could. I absolutely think he could, but I don't see him being available. I'm liking kind of some of the names. Give me some offbeat names, you guys. Give me some names that maybe I'm not even thinking of right now. So let's have a little fun here. Let's talk about quarterback. Let's go back to the quarterbacks in the draft, right? I can hear Zach in my head going, don't talk too much about the quarterbacks. But I have a feeling that's what you guys want to talk about too, right? So ranking quarterbacks in the draft, obviously, right, is number 1 and number 2 are locked in. Depends on who you like. Beginning of the year for me was Bryce Young. shifted to CJ Stroud. It's back to Bryce Young. His size is concerning a little bit. He's a little smaller, but he is the kind of quarterback that's like, if I need a touchdown, he can go get me a touchdown. He's very talented. CJ Stroud's number 2. And then this is where everybody's list is like dropping an M60 into a gutter. It just blows up, right? Just boom, 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 and nobody's is the same. Personally, and I can't wait to hear the remarks to this. My number 3 is Will Levis. I really like Will Levis. Now, here's the deal. He dealt with ribs, turf toe, and broken fingers this year. His offensive coordinator was gone. He lost almost all of his O-line, lost one of his big playmakers in Wan'Dale Robinson, I believe. Wan'Dale Robinson. It wasn't the same this season for him. Go back and watch his highlights and his tape from his junior season. Because of his injuries, they took so much out of the playbook that relied on his athleticism. What's funny is as we're doing this, he actually was on a Twitter space tonight and got some questions about what's going on. He did say in there he was going to officially declare for the draft. And then we actually had a guy on there ask specifically about the Colts and what his thoughts were on the Colts, which was really funny to see. And I think that's because the Colts are heavily linked to him. I've seen this before. They were heavily linked to Jordan Love, but you're seeing more connections with the two of them now. You're seeing that we know that they went to 3 of his games this year. We know they were at the UT Kentucky game, I believe, looking at Hendon Hooker at the time too, among other players. And you now have the report Zach Kiefer wrote today about Kentucky's defensive coordinator having a massive connection with the Colts in regards to having come up as a defensive assistant for I want to say it was 3 or 4 seasons, has maintained a relationship with Chris Ballard. So eyes and ears in the building in regards to what does Will Levis's work ethic look like? How does he do in practice? It's going to be really interesting to see that kind of play out. But he's my number 3. My number 4, you guys are going to laugh, is Anthony Richardson. He worries me a lot. Like I said, when I see him play, he is a bigger armed, less accurate Lamar Jackson coming out of Louisville, right? Like not Lamar now. Lamar has put in a ton of work to be a better quarterback and a better passer. But this dude, man, like I said, I grew up. My family is Florida State fans. My family is Florida State boosters, right? And so I'm watching that game last Friday, and there's a stretch where he goes 0 for 11 when it's needed for him to do something. Now, he made some plays with his legs, but he's either going to get someone paid or he's going to get somebody fired when it comes to the GM. And I could see him going as high as in the top 5 and as low as the end of the first round. I don't know with him, but I do like him. He's got a lot of tools. And then number 5 for me, right? This is fluid. Like I still got people I like. I jokingly told Zach Hicks from Locked On Colts that I blame him for me watching Bo Nix tape at Oregon. But he's not in my top 5. I still really like Hendon Hooker. I do. Like I live in Tennessee. Everybody knows that. Like I say that all the time. I watched him play. The kid is special. I know he tore his knee up. And I know he didn't look great in the South Carolina game. But there's something about that. And I think he was working his way into being a first round pick. I do think he's probably a second round pick now. So if who you want isn't there, quarterback wise in the first round, you try to take the best offensive lineman, take a tackle, take a left tackle, take something like that. He could be picked up at the beginning of the second, right? That's a very rough one for me. I do still like Bo Nix. The more I watch, I like Michael Penix Jr. as an IU fan. Like I remember him there. Dude's fully healthy, and he's done amazing at Washington. Cam Ward's another name you guys are going to hear a lot out of Washington State, especially if he declares. And the name that like had a ton of preseason hype that no one talks about, KJ Jefferson at Arkansas, was being comped to Cam Newton, right? So there's a lot of names. But I mean, that's my favorite. Like me personally, I'm a big fan of Will Levis. I believe, and he'll be able to say otherwise, I believe Zach's a big fan of Anthony Richardson. So we're gonna have fun with that, right? Like as we get closer, like when we get through the season, the ideal thing for us is gonna be go down to the Senior Bowl, potentially get to see some of these more veteran players down there, see what they do, and then break them down for you guys, right? Maybe like break down each one of them for you guys. All right, let's kind of go back up here. Let's pound out some of these comments from you guys. Dallas is fixing to empty the bank for Odell Beckham. If we don't make the NFC Championship game, Jerry will fire McCarthy and move Dan Quinn to head coach. That's possible. He's very loved by you guys. Dan Quinn is very, very loved. One Man Dynasty, AR-15 to Indy. I think that's an Anthony Richardson fan. Wyatt, KJ Jefferson, very similar traits to Richardson, but will be there late on day 2. I absolutely think so. He didn't have the season. Like I said, I am a college football junkie when it comes to like watching it. Breaking down film can be difficult. That's not my cup of tea. Zach does an amazing job at that. But as far as watching it, Arkansas just didn't have a great year. And I think that really hurt KJ Jefferson's stock. I think he was being looked at a lot because Arkansas was kind of like that darling pick at the beginning of the season in the SEC, and they just kind of fell flat. And I think that really hurt him. Let's see. David, thank you for coming in, man. As a Louisville fan, if we draft Will Levis, I'm done. And see, he's so polarizing, right? He's so polarizing. A lot of people are saying like he's the Zach Wilson of this year's draft, but I don't think he is. I think he is. The issue for Levis is you had like one mock draft that had him going number 1 overall, and everyone's like, well, who the hell is this dude? And he plays for Kentucky. So I think that was a big effect on him. I actually think a person that if you were to look and you're like, man, his play, not necessarily, but his measurables are going to blow people away. It's going to be Anthony Richardson. Has the potential to shoot up the draft board because of the fact that he's going to run like a 4.4. He's got a cannon for an arm. He's like 6'4", 240. Like he's huge, and he's fast. And he's just got a howitzer on his shoulder that he can just launch the ball. So I mean, I get it. I'm hearing that more and more that people really don't want Will Levis. I don't know why I do, but I do. But we'll kind of go into that as we get further along. Jeremy, why don't y'all bench Matt Ryan? He's just not good anymore. The issue, Jeremy, is, and everybody who's probably in this chat could tell you, you got nobody else, really. Like, I don't think Ellinger had a fair shake in regards to the Patriots game. You get sacked 9 times, no one's going to do well. No one looks good in that situation. But he's still kind of your best option. You have a rookie play caller, a guy who's never really called plays. It's tough to be like, okay, we're going to bench Matt Ryan, put in Sam Ellinger. I mean, and there's Nick Foles is out there too, but he's going to be inactive again. Everybody on here knows how I feel about Nick Foles. Yeah, I mean, there's not a whole lot. It's not like you can bench him and you can be like, well, I'm going to bring in the young rookie. Like, let's rewind to the draft last year. The Colts had a chance to take Malik Willis, right? The Colts had a chance basically at every quarterback that wasn't named Kenny Pickett. Let's just say that they picked Desmond Ridder or Malik Willis in the 3rd round before the Titans did. Then you could be like, well, let's just see what the rookie's got. Let's see what this guy's got. And you throw him out there, but you don't really have that on the Colts roster right now. Nomadic Brian coming in amazingly. Listed some guys for us. Shane Stetchen, the OC Eagles, has a good record of developing rookie quarterbacks. Absolutely. And he runs an offense that I think, depending on who you were to draft, you could implement pretty well. Like that Jalen Hurts type running, heavy run dose kind of quarterback would be interesting. Frank Smith, OC for the Dolphins. I'm wary of that because I think Mike McDaniels is like a freaking mad scientist genius, like Pinky in the Brain kind of style thing. And I actually really like him. So I'm not sure. Anthony Richardson from Florida, comparisons to Cam Newton and Josh Allen. It's true. Like you definitely hear a comparison to Bo. I've not heard Josh Allen as much. I've heard Cam Newton is one comp. Josh Allen, the comp for Josh Allen from some people, that's Will Levis, the big bodied athletic quarterback with a huge arm. That's not necessarily the most accurate, but that's who I hear him comp to sometimes too. Colts might not have to get from sixth to third or fourth somehow. Might have to get. Sorry, Nomadic Brian. Sorry, man. I don't know, man. I don't know how we got to see how it shakes out, right? Like you got to see how it materializes. If they do what we're saying, which is I don't know if they're going to win any more games this season. They're going to fall into, I think like they could fall like to like around 7. And I think at that you probably, outside of a Bryce Young, are going to probably have your pick of what quarterback you want. So, and then like I said earlier, if let's say they win a couple games and they come in at like 12th, like I said, fortune favors the bold, man. Like go make it. You see your guy, go get the guy. Texans went and got Deshaun Watson. The Ravens went and got Lamar Jackson. The Chiefs went and got Patrick Mahomes. The Bears went and got Mitchell Trubisky. Some of these don't work out. I get that. But you see your guy, you go get your guy. You make the move. Because, like, it would, if I'm Ballard, like, it's going to suck if I lose my job because I was too scared to take a quarterback and I never got that chance. And he always preached, I'm going to lose, you're going to run me out of town if I pick the wrong one. They're going to run you out of town if you don't pick one. Like, that's kind of where it's at. Jeremy, I'm going to head out. It was awesome to chat with y'all. Definitely come back and chat more. Looking forward to your next stream. Thanks, man. Like, we appreciate it. Make sure you hit the bell, ding the bell so you don't miss when we do go live. We go live. Everybody knows we go live every Wednesday at 9:15 Eastern, 8:15 Central. Back it up wherever you're at. This is a great point by Wyatt. Ballard loves him some traits. Richardson and Jefferson have them galore. Unless they're Jacob Eason 2.0 mentally, they're the quarterback type he'll lean toward. It's very true. But then it always goes back to, is Ballard going to be the one picking it? I mean, we do know, I'll say this. So when we talk about Anthony Richardson, we do know that they have been to, I believe, okay, so I think Will Levis is 4 games they've gone to see him. And I think Richardson is 3. But I did have a little birdie tell me that he was able to kind of find, I believe the Lions have been to 7 Richardson's games, Florida games. So he's tricky, man. I mean, Jefferson's got great traits. I don't think Jefferson's an earlier round pick. I think he's probably 3rd or 4th round. And be honest with me. Everybody in the chat, you can be honest with me. If the Colts waited till the 3rd or 4th round to take their quarterback this year, aren't you throwing things at the screen? Like, aren't you? Aren't you livid that they're waiting till like the 3rd round to take a KJ Jefferson or a, what is it? What's the dude from Stanford? And aren't you mad? Uh, so it'll be interesting to see. Domo, man, it's been a while, long time no see. Glad to have you back. Hashtag Team Richardson. I feel like there are two things that can be said when it comes to the quarterbacks, right? Everybody seems to strongly dislike Will Levis. And right now, everybody is in love with Anthony Richardson. That's kind of where we sit when it comes with the Colts. Brian, throwing our shoes at Ballard or whomever. I'm not sure what you mean, man. You might have to clarify that. Okay. So here near the tail end, let's kind of do this. We always do it, right? It's been fun talking a little bit draft. Like we'll really get heavy into it. Um, but let's talk about let's kind of briefly discuss the Sunday night football game that is the Colts versus the Cowboys. Anybody think we're gonna win? I have not picked against the Colts one time this year. I will this time. I think the Colts are going to not win this game. I just don't. Um, but I don't think it's going to be for reasons that people would normally say. I don't think Micah Parsons is going to wreck this game. The offensive line has gotten decently better, and you saw that they were able to kind of neutralize TJ Watt last week. I think they can kind of do something similar. They're going to make a point to have him not wreck the game, I think. But that offense for the Cowboys, for me, feels loaded. I mean, you're looking at Dak Prescott. You're looking at CeeDee Lamb. I mean, Zeke Elliott, Tony Pollard. It's a really talented offense. I don't think it's a blowout. I think it's a one-score, 7 to 10 point game. But I don't think the Colts come out on top. I just don't. What do you guys say? What says you? Do you think the Colts are going to pull it off? And I'm an optimistic guy. Like you guys have heard, I have been team. I would still love to see them win because I think no matter what, I have been the team and on the side of it saying, I want to win the games. If you fall in at 15th or 16th, then like I said earlier, make the move to go get your guy. Wyatt, Cowboys win 26-20, take the Colts and the points. Ooh. Hey, Wyatt, you using BetStamp? You use BetStamp ever? Get your spreads. Make sure you're looking at them right. Make sure you get the best actual odds for this game. Maybe. Anybody else want to drop them in here? And let me see what you guys are thinking. Otherwise, we're probably going to kind of wind this down. It's been a great time. David, 27-17 Colts, unfortunately. Yeah, Nomadic Brian, 34-20. That's the biggest one I've seen. I think it's closer. I just think that I don't think they're going to get blown out in any game. I don't think their pride is going to allow it. We'll see as the season goes on. But like I said, make sure you guys please like, share, subscribe, comment. When the live stream is, you guys can keep talking. You can keep dropping comments. I love to hear from you guys. We'll be back later in the week. We'll be back for the Sunday night game. You're probably going to get an instant reaction from myself and Zach on that. That'll be fun. As always, you guys, I love you. I know Zach loves you. We all love the Colts. It's been a rough season, but we love that all you guys have maintained all of this with us and helped us continue to grow throughout this, and that we're all still able to come together and just kind of talk a little bit of ball. I'm out.